Hi everyone, I'm Shawna. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about decluttering, and I have a lot of thoughts about decluttering, and I'm going to be sharing with you some observations that I've made, basically why decluttering is not my personal goal, why it's not satisfying to me, but also be talking about mainly why it's popular in the YouTube beauty space and what my problems are with it. Now, this whole video kicked off because I was watching a declutter the other day, and honestly, the creator doesn't really matter because I feel like if I were to, let's say, name a name or something, it makes it sound like or seem like it's an individual problem or it's an individualized occurrence, when really declutters are such a staple in the beauty space. It's a community-wide event or love or joy or something that I think both in terms of creators and viewers love to like. So anyways, this creator is looking at what they have left over from their declutter, and they said something that caught my eye, or not caught my eye, it piqued my attention because this is uttered a lot, or some version of this, where the creator feels so satisfied with their smaller numbers. They're really happy with the number of things that they've decluttered. There's just like, this feeling of satisfaction. And one of the most common reasons why people say that they are decluttering is that they have too much stuff. Their drawers are overflowing, to the point where they can't close them. They just feel so overwhelmed with the number of things that they own. And then as a result, products are being overlooked. I can understand why getting rid of products, whether that's 10 items or 50% of your makeup collection, I can understand why that would be satisfying. But in my own humble opinion, just for me, decluttering is not actually something that I want to do. It's not something that ever feels good to me. Or if it has at one point, then my opinion on that has changed. And I really don't want decluttering to be a staple in my makeup life. What's really common in the beauty space is for decluttering to be the main way or even central way that makeup leaves somebody's collection. And if that's you, then that's not really content that I want to consume for the most part. So this is my own personal feeling of what I want with my makeup life. I don't want a makeup life that relies on decluttering. I would really love to get to a place where I only ever had to get rid of, a couple products a year. I don't think that it's actually possible, for somebody who loves makeup. Even if you made every purchase that was super intentional, super thought out, you're not going to love everything that you own. So I think there's also the other end where you could be setting yourself up for failure. So I would personally like to get to a point where I'm rarely decluttering, and I'm interested in that kind of content too. So we're going to get into it, and I'm going to be talking about all of the issues that I have with decluttering and why I think it's kind of a problem, but also why people frequently feel the need to declutter. The first reason, I think this is the most common, but I don't really think that we use this language to talk about it. The number one reason declutters are used as a stress or anxiety management tool. Now, I'm not here to diagnose anybody with anything. I really believe that it's a mechanism or a tool to help manage one's stress and anxiety, and I think many of us can relate to looking around and just feeling so stressed out with what you own, or just like the mess or the clutter, or opening a drawer and it being like, I'm just going to close that. Like, you don't even want to confront it. And I've certainly felt that way about different aspects of my life. I feel that way about a closet right now that I've just shoved everything into. And so decluttering is a solution in a way. And it's also an instant fix because we feel better after, and then we also see the results right before our eyes. It's not something that takes time or really asks much of us beyond a singular of like one-time event. It doesn't ask us to change our habits or anything like that. And once we're done though, we do feel that relief of that, like, and that is what I'm talking about, is when we are having a problem, like our space is too cluttered and we have this solution, we can create this cycle because we have a problem, we know the solution, but we also know the gratification or the satisfaction, the relief that happens after. It's kind of like, well, anything we do is a coping mechanism, even the same thing as how we shop. If you're feeling stressed and you shop because you're stressed, shopping does have the immediate effect of reducing the stress. And then next time you go, you're stressed, you're training yourself to develop this habit. So if you're decluttering every time you see your space is burgeoning with stuff, you're training yourself to develop this habit of every time I feel this anxiety about my makeup, I'm just going to go and declutter it. So we already have the solution that's well primed for us to work, but it's ultimately, in my opinion, a coping mechanism, because is it the best solution to do this every year? Probably not. This is not a judgment on how somebody spends their money, because a lot of big YouTubers probably can afford to shop the way that they shop. And so for the average person who is not a multi-million-dollar YouTuber, we can also take on these habits ourselves. And I'll talk about that near the end. And we can develop these coping mechanisms ourselves. When we do develop these kinds of habits, in essence, they become something we rely on, and we don't ever have to think about alternatives, which I think is perhaps the biggest barrier in this one. Is we don't really think about our purchasing habits, or why we're decluttering, or why we find it valuable or helpful or stress relieving, and we don't really come up with or even feel the need to think about alternatives. Number 2 is one that I would say is more of an observation, if you will, and that is the expectation of a ruthless or cutthroat declutter. Somehow, somewhere along the line, somebody somewhere said the gold standard of decluttering is if it's ruthless or it's cutthroat. How many times have we heard a YouTuber say that? Or somebody who's not doing that, there's like a disclaimer. I don't know how much of a cutthroat declutter this is going to be. And so from a creator's perspective, I've heard this language, and almost maybe like a guilt, or somehow the video is not good enough if it's not ruthless. And so I think that there is this gold standard of the best declutter videos are the ones that have the highest pass or, toss pile. And I think that actually has become an expectation, and those are the ones that viewers enjoy watching the most. So yeah, okay, sure that's fun to watch, and that gets into my next one, but just think about this for a second. There is an expectation of a cutthroat declutter every time somebody declutters, and declutters are a huge part of the community. They're really central in a staple video. And so I think this kind of goes down to this expectation of decluttering, period. Like if you have a makeup collection and you're on YouTube, you will declutter. And then there's also another expectation of what that declutter will likely look like, or what it should look like. And then I think even from a creator's perspective, there could be this, I don't want to say that I've ever gotten rid of something to make it look extra good on YouTube, but there can just be that extra pressure to get rid of stuff because, it makes for more exciting declutter. I really don't understand why it's so normal to get rid of as much as humanly possible in a declutter. Just think about this for a second. Declutters, I really just feel like the community just has never really stopped to think about why we hold this view as to why we see declutters as good or necessary in the first place. This leads me to my next one, which is that there is a market for declutters. And I don't want to make this video seem one-sided, that it's creators who are creating the problem, but creators wouldn't make videos that don't get views. Every creator adjusts their videos based on what's doing well and what's not. That's not somebody who's selling out. That's somebody who is giving their audience what they want. Even if they don't do that all the time, most creators are doing this at least some of the time. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. And I'm also not bashing creators, because this is a video that is a staple in the community, and declutters are staples. The community loves watching them. They love they love watching people get rid of their stuff. And I don't think I can make this more clear for me, is that I loved declutters too, and I have loved binging these kinds of videos, and I love when my favorite creators make these kinds of videos. Why have I never stopped to think, hold on, why are declutters necessary? Why do I love them so much? Is it because I'm so wrapped up in consumerism that I also love watching people throw away their stuff? Like, I like watching people consume, but I also like watching people unconsume. You know, it's all part of the consumer cycle. Or do I like watching them so much because it is part of the consumer cycle, which means that they can get more stuff? Or it's just more videos surrounded by stuff. And maybe this one shouldn't be called, there's a market for it. Maybe this one should be called, why hasn't beauty YouTube ever stopped to question the place of declutterers and why we love them so much? For me, if I'm regularly decluttering, that means I'm regularly wasting my money. I'm buying stuff that's not working for me regularly. I'm overbuying stuff, and I'm buying stuff I'm not using, I don't like, and then I'm refilling my makeup storage with new stuff again, to the point that it's so full, it's bursting, that I now need to declutter it again. Is this why we like a declutter? This isn't a fully formed thought. It's just something that has kind of just not sat right with me. Okay, number 4, a central reason why people declutter, and I think this one is perhaps more common with like the everyday person. Preferences aren't forever. So many of us fill our makeup collections with one type of thing, and we'll buy that thing over and over again. Let's just give it, for me, a really classic example would be like a particular color of blush or a particular color of lipstick. Remember when everybody owned liquid lipsticks? That was not a long-standing formula, like one that has kind of stood the test of time. And even then, like, that was more of a makeup trend, but even we can go through personal trends like preferences for lipstick colors, eyeshadow colors, blush colors, but also even formulas. I once was an all powder gal. I'm now really into creams. And so personally, I wouldn't declutter something because it's a powder, but I'm now liking creams. But these preferences aren't forever. Are you doing your makeup and do you like the same colors and styles as you did 5 years ago? Likely not. There's probably some crossover. I mean, there also probably are people out there who kind of buy the same products over and over again, and like that's their staple, and they don't really veer much from that. If that's you, I think that's awesome. That's certainly not me. And so when we buy so much of a thing, even if we could use it, our preferences are going to change before we get to, and then we just end up decluttering. And I think that's not the sole reason, but that's one of the reasons why people end up decluttering stuff. It's just that it's not their preference anymore. But also, why are we buying 12 million of the same thing? To me, it's a bit like, why is there no self-restraint? Like, why do I need every cream blush at Sephora? Or why do I need every lengthening mascara at the drugstore? A lot of us see owning all of this stuff as good and helpful or fun to accumulate, but don't really think about the aftermath of. Number 4, I think, is really similar, is relying on declutters as the central way of having makeup move out of our homes instead of using things up. And to me, I think this is one example that I think demonstrates the power of the declutter, because it really helps us. It's a tool of overconsumption. In all honesty, like I'm really not trying to make anybody feel bad about themselves, because I still struggle with this too. If we're in the try to try and the buy to buy phase, we are allowed to participate and keep up those activities if we also put in a declutter there as well. So we can keep buying and we can keep trying to our heart's content, because we also have this tool that helps us manage things when we're stressed with how much we own or when we've accumulated way too much stuff. And also what I've noticed in declutters too is kind of an unwillingness of, this particular point goes into larger creators. I think larger creators very rarely use up products, and so that becomes the norm of decluttering things to get them out instead of using them up. And I'm talking about makeup specifically, and this often gets tossed around in videos of, I try out so much makeup for a living that I finish this thing naturally, and that says a lot. That's not something I would personally like to brag about. I mean, I do see the point either way. The reason why I bring this up is because I think that there is an unwillingness, or maybe just an out of practice, or it's just not a habit that larger creators have. They'll declutter things instead of doing the work and trying to use them up or trying to pan them. And project panning pretty much doesn't go with larger YouTubers. And I'm not saying that a YouTuber necessarily, like a YouTuber that has, 500,000 subscribers needs to do a project pan, but there's this I'm going to declutter it opposed to finish it mentality that is just so common, and why I think declutters are even more prominent. Okay, number 6 is the one that I wanted to really talk about the most, and it's creators' influence on our lives. And before watching YouTube, I didn't really consume that much makeup. I had a singular makeup bag. This is, I think, throwing it back. Target left Canada, I believe, in 2015, and I don't know what makeup bag I owned before this one, but the one that sticks in my mind is this really beautiful Sonia Kashuk makeup bag that had like these flowers all over. It was kind of orange and pink. It was so beautiful, and I owned that for a while. Again, I don't know what I used before that. Anyways, I started hyper consuming makeup once I found Beauty YouTube, but I also never started decluttering until I watched Beauty YouTube as well. And this is a habit that I took on even though I didn't own as many products as the YouTubers that I was watching. And so this was a learned behavior, and I'm wondering how many of us would really be decluttering all that much when it comes to our makeup, or if we would be decluttering as much as we do now if we weren't watching Beauty YouTube. I think that Beauty YouTube's influence is twofold. One, I consumed more makeup because of Beauty YouTube, therefore things weren't working, I wasn't finishing things, so there was this need to declutter. But then number 2, I didn't even realize that I could declutter until I started watching Beauty YouTube. And then also, I took on this positive view of declutters because of YouTube. And I saw declutters as beneficial because that's what everybody else around me was believing, and was that, I think that's the predominant attitude on YouTube, is that declutters are beneficial and useful, and they're overall a positive thing. And so one of the, I guess, side comments I hear a lot, especially in declutters, is that no one needs to own this much makeup. I hear that often. See, to me that's a disclaimer in the way that we make other kinds of disclaimers. And so for me, it also feels like the creator is shirking their responsibility over the influence that they have on their audience. And it's like a denial that they have one, or that their overconsumption, or that maybe not even overconsumption, that their consumption levels affect their subscribers. And even if somebody's YouTube channel starts out in a really innocent way, I have a particular skin type, maybe I don't see other people like me on YouTube, and I want to review products and tell you about my experience about them. And even though you do have a unique skin type, and you do have, maybe other people don't have the same skin as you, the same skin tone, undertone, color, texture, what have you, yes, people benefit from watching you 100%. When you buy all of these things to try for reviews, to give your thoughts on to your audience, your consumption levels affect your subscribers too. Consistently seeing new products on your channels, or on your channel, and hearing your reviews, especially if you rave about something, that absolutely affects, subscribers' own makeup consumption. And I personally have noticed in the past maybe month, I've watched a few more review style channels, or channels that review more makeup than it was before. I noticed that I wanted to buy more makeup, not just buy more makeup, but buy the things that they were recommending because I thought that they would be really great for me. And so there is influence there. And so if you tell your audience, like you spend your entire time on your channel buying and reviewing products or reviewing products that are even sent to you, you do have an influence on your subscribers. And saying no one needs to own this much makeup doesn't really negate that. The reason why I bring this up is that a lot of people see declutters as part of the game. If you own this much makeup, especially if you're a bigger YouTuber, you will need to declutter even if it goes to friends and family. I thought this for a very long time as well. I didn't see how I was being influenced by the people that I was watching because I was not buying as much makeup as they were. I wasn't buying every release or even everything that they mentioned. I was only buying some things, but that was still way more than before and way more than I could handle. And so I took on that practice that they also took on of decluttering because I had too much stuff. I thought this for a very long time. And the reason why I thought this essential reason is because I saw excess consumption as a normal level of consumption. And what I viewed as normal was really in excess. If you overconsume, how do you manage your inventory? And I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you own 50 foundations, and let's say you go through 5 foundations a year. For me, getting through 5 foundations a year is not possible, but let's just say for this scenario, if you decide today you're never going to shop until you finish everything that you own in each category, you can buy it once you finish everything in that category, it would take you 10 years to finish all of that foundation, which means that majority of the products by the time we get to that 10-year mark will be expired. So it makes sense to declutter everything that you probably couldn't get through in the next, let's say, 3 to 4 years. So decluttering is as well an inventory management system or an inventory management solution because people don't want to stop consuming the way that they're consuming. And this is what normal is, and this is what is okay with them. So decluttering is necessary in order to manage the inventory. Even if I had the money, I personally would not want to be in a situation where I need an inventory management system or even really think about managing my inventory because I had so much stuff. And I looked at myself personally over the last 2 years of being on YouTube, and I do own less makeup than I did then. And the central way I know that is because I don't see declutters as a regular part of this channel anymore because there are so few things that I really want to declutter. And also, to me, that's a testament of buying things that are working for me, but also buying less, where there are more things not working out or just having too much stuff where I feel the need to declutter. And so I don't really know how much smaller a makeup collection is going to be. It's no longer really my focus. But I don't want to be the kind of person who needs to declutter in order to feel some kind of anxiety relief or stress relief or manage my inventory. And this is what I think people I really wish that there was a better discussion about this, and also how we can be influenced by what we watch. And beauty YouTube has really naturalized and normalized an overconsumption level. And I'm not here to tell you what normal should be for you or what normal is. I'm not here to set that standard because I also know that not all of our standards are the same, but also this is not life according to Shawna. And there are lots of people out there who think I own too much makeup. I really wish that there was a bigger conversation about how overconsumption has really been normalized and naturalized in a lot of our lives, and people who aren't, making 100 G's or $1 million off of YouTube a year. So that's today's video. I feel like the tone of this video is fairly light. I'm not here coming for anybody or telling people that they're trash or their consuming habits are trash. I'm here to just talk about declutters and how they're just not this great tool that I once thought that they were, or how fun and exciting they were. I really would just love a more open conversation about decluttering and how that's just such a testament to how much we overconsume that we have to get rid of stuff, and that we keep repeating this buy, declutter, buy more, declutter more, buy, it's just this cycle that people just really don't want to break. And it's also really hard to break too. Everything around us tells us that we should keep consuming at these levels, and capitalism somehow believes in what exponential growth. Okay, I can't. I really want to critique capitalism all the time. Anyways, that was today's video. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and I would love it if you would subscribe if you're new here. I make 2 to 3 videos every week on beauty, contentment, sometimes fashion, kind of minimalist content, but we're in the contentment year. I would love to see you again around here soon. Thank you for watching. Bye.